Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the GAA Fan TV podcast. I hope you're all keeping well. My name is Aaron, of course, your host, and today I spoke with Antrim senior hurling captain Conor McCann. Great conversation with Conor today. We spoke a lot about Antrim hurling, looking back at the 2020 Senior Hurling Championship, of course, for Antrim, in which they won the Joe McDonagh Cup, winning every game, including that Croke Park win over Kerry in the final. We spoke about the influence of Darren Gleeson, of course, Tipperary winning hurling player, of course, as well, won an All-Ireland with Tipperary, and of course now the Antrim senior hurling manager. We spoke a bit about Conor McCann's rise through the ranks with Antrim, of course, coming up against the Clare under-21s, of course, in the 2013 final, a team that included the likes of Tony Kelly, Podge Collins and Peter Duggan, for example. So he came up against one of the top-class teams at a very young age indeed, of course, in the under-21 final for Antrim. Yeah, we spoke about the future of Antrim hurling, of course, as well, looking at what could happen in 2021 for Antrim, playing in the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship, coming up against the likes of the Dubs, Galway, Kilkenny, Wexford and Laois. So yeah, look, listen, very interesting conversation with Conor. I'd like to thank him for coming on and enjoy the podcast. Okay, so I'm here with senior Antrim hurler Conor McCann. I suppose first of all, Conor, I appreciate you coming on, appreciate your time. How's things been going for yourself so far, and what have you made of the lockdown?
No, thanks for having me. First of all, Aaron, no, I'm glad to be able to come on. No, everything's going good so far. I suppose within reason. We're having, I suppose, a bit of a break at the minute, maybe a wee bit. At this time of year, you're not used to, but no, everything aside from that, everything's going pretty good. Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. And I suppose we'll start things off really by just looking at your time playing for Antrim, and then kind of reflect on last year's season for Antrim and so on. Like, obviously in Antrim, similar to myself here in Dublin, it's a huge population, plenty of sports, plenty of things to get involved in. Like, what was it for yourself that made you get so involved in hurling?
I suppose no, similar enough. Like you say, to Dublin, huge population, hurling and GA and is very very popular here. Everyone's seriously dedicated, seriously enthusiastic about hurling, especially and Gaelic as well. So no, Antrim's a huge tradition, I suppose, years gone past as well. And I suppose for me, growing up, seeing that sort of stuff, seeing teams playing well, I remember going down for many years watching club teams, Antrim club teams, and the county teams progressed into All Ireland semi-finals and finals. So I suppose that's where it probably started. Whenever I was very young, I was watching them teams from no age, and I wanted to get there myself at some stage. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and who would have been your favorite player, kind of biggest inspiration, maybe growing up from a hurling point of view?
There was, whenever I was very, very small, I used to go down to Croke Park All Ireland Club Final Day, and I suppose I remember very vividly watching Dunloy. And in them years, they were very strong. I think they made 5 finals in a row. There was the Elliots, one of our selectors and managers, Gary O'Kane, they were and Dick O'Kane as well. They were very, very strong players at that stage. But Antrim especially, I think it was quite, at that stage, the provincial championships progressed into the All Ireland semi-finals, and I remember Denny Cahill was managing. Antrim had a couple of really really big victories and really big games against the likes of Wexford and Tipperary. There was which run them very close, and them teams were unbelievable at that stage.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I suppose, like, looking at your time playing for Antrim, like, and I suppose in the under-21s as well, like, obviously that run in 2013, beating the likes of Derry and Wexford en route to the final. Like, what was it like to be part of that team, and I suppose, be part of that run to the under-21 final?
So I suppose probably then we probably didn't appreciate the scale of what that was and how big a thing it was at that stage. We were all quite young, and I think the victory against Wexford came as a shock as much to everyone else, or came as much of a shock to us as it did to everyone else. We obviously knew we were a good team, but I suppose getting over that line and making the first final for an Ulster team was massive at that stage. And I suppose that team, if you look at the team that's played that All Ireland final, then are more or less the backbone of the squad that's there now, and the senior panel, and that's probably been a big like plus and a big motivation for the team, is I suppose getting back to them sort of heights again. And I know Clare give us a fair they gave us a fair beating in the final, and that team, the team themselves, I think that was their third. They were going for 3 in a row at that stage. They were unbelievable. And but no, I suppose that year and everything just gave us a bit of a taste of what it could have been. And we, I suppose, have been striving to get back there ever since, even it is maybe 7-8 years later,
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, I'd say it was an amazing experience as well. I suppose playing in Croke Park as well, which doesn't come around too often. Like, and looking at some of the players in that Clare team, like you had Tony Kelly, Cathal Malone, Peter Duggan, Podge Collins, like all stars in the Clare senior team today. Like, what was it like going up against them?
It was just, I suppose, the year that was in it. It was tough. They, if I can recall correct, they drew the All Ireland senior final the week before, and then the replay was the week after. So I think we couldn't have hit them at a worse time. The squad of players they had and the form they were in, they were just really hard to work with. But fair enough. We gave it everything we could that day, and I suppose I think they went out the week after and won the All Ireland senior as well. They beat Cork after that, and just an unreal team. But no, it was a great occasion for us, and I think it was the first Antrim team to make a final since after 1989. So no, it was a huge occasion, and I remember the crowds. The final was down in Turles. The crowds that went down to it travelled down, in thousands, and it was something. Yeah, it will definitely live long in memory. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and even looking at Tony Kelly as well, like in 2020, and looking how good he is now. Like, when you look at his form, I suppose back then, like he always had the potential to go on to be, one of the best hurlers in the country. Like, was that something even you could see back then, going up against him in that final and sort of seeing how good he was in 2020, for example?
I think that Clare team, just like you said earlier, littered with players the likes of Tony Kelly. I suppose he's maybe came a bit, his name's a bit more popular, and his performances maybe after that, the few years after that, really, he lifted his game really well after that. And I suppose you had only had to watch his performances this year to see how good he still is, 7-8 years on. He's up for Player of the Year, I think, shortlisted for that. And Clare, what were they in the quarterfinals? Didn't make a semi-final, so he's. No, I think that team and that group of players that were there were just unbelievable, and unfortunately we were in the wrong end of that. Just
yeah, absolutely. Like, and sure, looking at what Clare have gone on to do. Like, I don't think there's any shame in it, considering obviously winning the All Ireland that year at senior level as well, going for 3 in a row. Like, and I suppose, like, what was it like when you made your senior debut for Antrim? I know you were in the senior panel a couple of years before that. So what was it like, I suppose, coming into the team and making your senior debut?
2011, I think, debut away to Laois in the Leinster Championship, and that was probably again similar circumstances, as that I was probably took it for granted at that stage. I was quite young. I think it was only left school, 18, and just joined the panel, and yeah, things worked out, and we had a really good run at that stage. That was a first of our. I think we won maybe 3 or 4 games. We won that game, sorry, and then Wexford beat us a game after that. But then we had a good run in the qualifiers, and came up against a Limerick team at the end of that were very strong, and we run them pretty close actually. We were I think it was tight at half time, and then they pulled away whenever we got a man sent off. So no, it was making my debut that year was very, 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 very big, and it was an honour for me at that stage. I suppose probably yeah, I was just trying to ride a wave at that stage. I suppose whenever I was at that age, I thought every year was going to be like that, and I suppose I've been lucky enough to sort of stay in the panel and build my way up. I suppose to where we're at today. So 9 years later or 10 years later. So
Yeah, and like, what was the hype like around Antrim, I suppose, in 2011 and 2010 as well? Because obviously in 2010, beat the likes of Carlow and Dublin, gave Cork a good battle as well. Like, what was the sort of hype around Antrim hurling like back in those years?
I like sort of touched on it earlier. You know, the hurling especially in Antrim, the people and the supporters um, are so supportive and they're so enthusiastic about the hurling. They're absolutely mad about it. You know, whenever the teams are going well, the you know, you only drive up the road and you see, like, you know, anywhere in North Antrim is you know, children are everywhere with their sticks and balls, and it's just like they're out in numbers, you know. And I suppose, yeah, I remember 2010. I remember going to Crook Park. My brother was playing that year. He was in the panel. I remember going to support him, and then watching them. I suppose the one against Dublin, and then the playing against Cork in the quarterfinal. You know, that was. I suppose probably everyone thought, you know, this was Antrim were coming back and coming back to the top of the pile again at that stage. And I suppose maybe a few years after that, we sort of struggled for a bit. Um, but no, it's been. Um, I suppose that you know that the team we had then, and you know, look at the likes of Neil McManus is still playing, and he was a key player at that stage, and still a key player now. So you know, there's similarities in probably the teams playing then, teams playing now, in terms of age profile and levels and stuff too. So um, yeah, it was, you know, it was a big few years then, and I suppose hopefully we're hoping just to get back there again. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and you know, beating that Dublin team as well, that were, you know, in an All Ireland semi final, of course, a year later, and beat Clare in that same season as well. Like, so undoubtedly, like a huge result, I'd imagine at the time, like especially for the county of Antrim. And I suppose, like, you know, when you did go up to senior level, like what were the kind of challenges you think are there for players who maybe go from under 21 to senior level? Like, what kind of, like, how big is that step up, do you think?
I think the probably whenever I started, the step up mine to being as big then, but I think, you know, the everyone's quite I suppose everyone's quite aware now of the level that the teams are playing at now. You know, you only have to look at the likes of the Limericks, Waterfords, you know, Kilkenny, Tipperary. Obviously, like the level of fitness and conditioning and preparation, and even the hurling, the pace of the hurling now um, has came on and increased so much, you know, over them years. So I think it's definitely tougher now if you're trying to break onto a senior squad and senior team, and it obviously can be done. You only have to look at some of the young players that are breaking through still, but it's probably less common now. I know the suppose age profiles of squads have probably is probably less and lower than it used to be, but it's definitely a huge step up, and there's a lot of work needs to be put in before you ever make your senior squad or senior team, especially starting. So
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and obviously in your time as well, like when you broke through to senior level, like there's been, I suppose, a number of changes, like to the structure of the championship. Like, there was the group stages, I remember, in Leinster, then you had the qualifiers, then I suppose back to Ulster, and then into the Joe McDonagh Cup. Like, what have you made of all the changes, like, I suppose, in your time playing for Antrim? Because certainly, you know, year on year, it looks like obviously now there's a bit more of a settled structure, but year on year, especially for counties in Ulster playing hurling, like there seem to be a lot of changes, you know, year on year.
yeah, we've probably like you say, the Ulster champion or Ulster teams especially. Um, I suppose any of the teams in around that sort of middle bracket, you know, have been sort of at the hands of these sort of restructures, and it does feel at the minute that the way the hurling structured is really positive, and bringing on, like, I suppose, competitive matches and pairing up teams that are you know, similar standard, and you know, creating good games, competitive games really. There's a few, you know, whenever I broke on, there was obviously uh, we were in the Leinster Hurling Championship, and you were coming up against some really strong teams at that stage, and you could have got a big beating, but then you were competitive for maybe 3 or 4 games in a row. It was quite up and down at that stage, and it was hard to, I suppose, keep performances consistent because you're coming up against such opposition at such different levels. It feels at the minute that the way it's structured with the Joe McDonagh and the Christy Ring, and even the on lower Nicky Rackard, the other competitions, it seems to be structured well to bring on the best teams and promote, I suppose, teams competing against each other that are at the same level. But no, there were this. It's obviously very, very difficult to get yourself out of that as well. And we're back in the Leinster Hurling Championship now after 3 or 4 seasons, and yeah, we're happy to be back there and hoping to consolidate our place there, I suppose, and get back in. I suppose once you're back in the Leinster Hurling Championship, you're back in the Liam McCarthy as well. So that's the main aim for us. And getting back there has been that was a big driver for us last year, was getting ourselves back in there again and taking as it comes now. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I suppose when you look at counties like Down, Derry as well, and Donegal, who all kind of had, relative success as well, like in the different tiered structures, like definitely shows a lot of positives for a lot of the counties in Ulster playing hurling in any ways. Like, and I suppose, what have you made of, playing in the Joe McDonagh Cup like the past 2 or 3 years? Like, obviously, massive success this year or last year in 2020, but I suppose in the other years, like you were thereabouts, and very, very competitive, a lot of very good teams. So what have you made of it since it started?
Since the Joe McDonagh, they brought in that structure, I think it's been very positive, for the teams. I suppose you look at any of the teams that are playing, the quality of them matches and the quality of the opposition and teams that are coming out of it. You only have to look at Laois and how well they've progressed the last few seasons. And yeah, you're right in that we've been there and thereabouts, but we've probably struggled for a while on our consistent performances. We've put in a good match, good performance, and then the next day we went out, we've been poor or we've struggled, and that's probably something that we tried to rectify this season. But no, the Joe McDonagh has been a hugely positive thing, overall for hurling, I think. And I think whenever the teams come through, whoever the champions are come through, they've done well. The seasons, a couple of seasons after, and Carlow, Westmeath, Laois, Kerry are very strong. Ourselves, we're all trying to chase off or get back into Division 1 and consolidate our place or stay there. So I suppose the Joe McDonagh's been a big plus for us, and yeah, we'll see how it goes next season. I suppose we're glad we're in it, but we're glad to be out of it. It's definitely a tough competition, which probably deserves more. The one thing I would say about it is it probably deserves more promotion than it gets. The games are so competitive and probably be better to watch than some of the games you would see in RTE or TG4 at times, but they maybe don't get the promotion,
Mm. And what do you think it was that drove you on and kind of got you over the line in the Joe McDonagh Cup last year? Because obviously, I suppose Neil McManus was injured as well, and I think a lot of people probably felt that when he was injured that maybe Antrim's chances probably wouldn't have been as good as previous years. But in the end, won every game in the group stages, and then of course beat Kerry in the final as well. So what do you think it was for yourself and for Antrim that got you over the line?
I suppose there's a few different things at play, and we have a new management structure and team in place. Came in last season for the first time. Age profile of our team is very young, and it's changed probably the last 2 or 3 seasons. Has sort of been building up towards getting a solid base of players there, which we probably had more settled. They were more settled last season. And then just the right timing of all that sort of coming into play together, getting the right people in place, first of all, on the sort of backroom setup, and then just on the pitch. I suppose Neil McManus not being there definitely made it harder, but I suppose it's maybe something that's moving forward, we're going to have to do at some stage anyway. You know, we can't rely on Neil, like I said earlier about him being one of the main players in 2011 or 2012 and no, sorry, 2010. You know, and that's 10 years later. He's still one of the key players. You know, at some stage, there's other players are going to have to start to fill that position in them boots. So, no, we're definitely pleased that we were able to get the wins and um, get the results. But it was hard fought, and some of them were tough. Some of them were definitely really we found it hard. So, but we got there. So.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I suppose you mentioned Neil McManus as well. Like, what's it been like playing alongside him, and how good is he in your opinion?
Yeah, Neil's a class act. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. Like you've seen, I suppose everyone's sort of across Ireland's fairly aware of his ability and seen him. Seen him playing, and he can compete with the best. There's no doubt about that. And we're very lucky. I suppose he's been able to, the likes of someone of that caliber, having him part of your panel and part of your squad, able to pass on like sort of knowledge, uh, experience, and it's invaluable stuff like that. You can't buy stuff like that. Whenever you have players like that around, and but at the same time, he's not just there to pass on stuff. He's there to actually play and compete and lead the team as well. So I think that's testament to him as well, because he's been playing at the top of his game for 10, 15 years, and he's not looking like he's struggling anyway. I know he said he missed all the group games in Joe McDonagh, but he still came on the final and scored 4 or 5 and got us probably over the line. So he's a huge player for us, and yeah, we're definitely honoured to be able to play with him and take a lot from him. And and that's it. But no, we keep reminding him that he's the oldest player in our panel by a long stretch. So he doesn't enjoy hearing that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. No, like when he came off the bench as well, like he was exceptional as well. Like just the way I suppose when players normally come back from injuries, you think maybe they take a bit of time to get off the mark, or that they wouldn't be up to full fitness, but he looked streets ahead when he came on. And yeah, undoubtedly for me, like in the top 5, top 10 hurlers in the country without doubt. Like, and I suppose you mentioned there like Darren Gleeson as well, the Antrim hurling manager. Like, what's it been like working under him? Because obviously he's an All-Ireland winner himself with Tipperary as a player. So what's it been like working with him?
It's been like Darren was in with us a few seasons before, on like a coaching basis, and then this season he moved up to management, and so and the main manager really. And it's been a breath of fresh air really for Antrim hurling. He's I suppose everything he brings along with it is enthusiasm, is his planning. He's able to bring everything that he's sort of been brought up through Tipperary, and he's been able to bring all that sort of background and experience with him. And I think the players have enjoyed that, and probably have definitely fed off it and grew a lot off the back of having Darren involved, and having I suppose him able to make them structures and get everything in place that we need to grow, I suppose. So it's been great.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I suppose it was huge emotion as well. Obviously when he's beat Kerry in the final, you like obviously you couldn't celebrate it obviously for obvious reasons, but like what was the atmosphere like in the dressing room after winning that? Like huge moment, same day as the All Ireland final, winning a major trophy, Joe McDonagh Cup, of course, in Croke Park. Like what was the atmosphere like after the game?
I doubt the players, the players and management enjoyed it now, in fairness, and there's no doubt that crowd or not, there was it didn't matter to us at that stage. We went there to get a result, and we were absolutely delighted just after it. A bit of relief, just and enjoyed the whole experience of it. And really just really glad to be back, get ourselves back. Everyone wants to play in the Liam McCarthy. That's the main aim. So no, it was great to be able to go to Croke Park, and especially mid-December is not your conventional year. It was being able to have some sort of success or something positive come out of the back of everything that happened, and for all our supporters at home, the support that we received from everyone in Antrim was unbelievable, in the lead up and the build up and the games before, and also even able to give people like that a bit of a lift. I think the players realised, that there was a lot more going on than just us winning. It was a big thing for everyone in Antrim. So.
And I'd say that was probably, maybe the highlight of your playing day so far, or at least up there anyways.
Definitely. I suppose Antrim teams especially have struggled the last number of years in Croke Park, and I suppose going there, getting a result like that, and for me personally, being able to lead the team there and obviously get presented a trophy, and it's a huge honour, and definitely a big thing for me personally. But the team itself, I think, given the timing of it and the age profile of the squad, I think is very important for us to get the result and hopefully progress now. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose with the fact it was so close to Christmas as well, did it feel? I'd imagine it felt a bit odd in some ways as well. The fact that you were playing, a final so close to Christmas, and then spending time with your family afterwards. I'd say it was definitely a great way in many ways to win so close to Christmas, but I'd say it definitely did feel a little odd in some ways as well.
Yeah, no, that's it. The celebrations and all aside, it was it was obviously a lot lower key on that front, but it was really nice, like you say, to be able to go back to your family and enjoy a couple of weeks off, and have that time off for Christmas. Like usually, normal season in a normal year, you would be back training, say November, December, and you'd probably be training over Christmas and not really being able to, I suppose, go and enjoy time with your family, time with your friends. I suppose I know maybe restrictions and stuff didn't allow you to maybe go out or maybe go and get food or something like that. But just even having the time at home and to relax, switch off, sort of recharge is massive, and it's something that players don't get too often. So it was definitely nice, and you're able to sort of savor the results, savor the run that we went on for 2 months before, and it was nice now.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose, how do you see yourselves getting on in Leinster in 2021? Obviously, highly competitive championship in many ways, and I suppose you've Laois and Dublin up there that I think Antrim could probably easily beat on their day. So, how do you see it yourselves going into Leinster in 2021?
We're looking forward to obviously getting back there. We're not really sure, obviously, timings and structures of what way the league's sort of shaping up at the minute. I've heard sort of rumours about grips in it possibly, but no, we're looking forward to the competition and playing these teams. That's where we want to be playing, and that's where we want to be putting ourselves up against. And the likes of Laois talked about earlier, very very strong team, and Dublin obviously they came back, avenged their defeat the year before against Laois. They're top teams, really really good teams. And that's that's the main thing about getting back there is I suppose challenging ourselves, seeing where we're at, and yeah, just enjoying playing against the top teams, hopefully. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose, what players do you think for yourself, or what players do you think for the Antrim team? I suppose, other than yourself, do you think that can make a big difference going into 2021? Obviously you said, a lot of young players at the moment coming through, very young squad. So who do you see could really make an impact for Antrim in 2021?
Yeah, there's a number of sort of young players at the minute are doing really well, working really hard, and obviously last season you've seen the likes of James McNaughton he had a very very strong campaign. Niall McKenna, a really strong campaign. We had our squad at the minute is as strong as I've ever seen in a squad in terms of from 30, 32, 30 players. And that's something that's been a huge probably driver for us, is having the number of the players there and the squad always pushing the training and stuff like that. So No, I'm really looking forward to seeing a lot of the players. There's like Damon McMullen from Lockheed came in towards the end of last season and played a bit of hurling, but he'll hopefully get a proper crack at it this season. And yeah, there's definitely so many like some young Dunloy players come in off the back of their senior championship final, and no, there's so much talent. It's a good Antrim hurling's in a decent enough position, but I suppose we'll know that once in a few months' time. Hopefully, once the Division One hurling gets going, and we'll see where we're at. Really.
Yeah, and I suppose that's probably a great thing for yourselves as well. The fact that you're in Division One, so you can actually, I suppose, test yourselves out against some of the top teams as well. Like I'd imagine you're probably looking forward massively as well to playing Division One hurling as well. I suppose after the promotion last year as well.
Aye, that's it. Like last year probably the Joe McDonagh was obviously massive and getting back to Liam McCarthy, but the Division 2A final, winning that as our first game back was probably as important, maybe more so. I suppose that you only have to look at the top teams play there consistently and perform consistently, and that's where we know we have to be week in, week out if we're going to have a chance of staying there. So like last season was a really success for us. Promoted in the league and won the championship, so we can't complain. But it's going to be really hard to, I suppose, keep that momentum going now, because you're up against the opposition you're up against, and players quality of the players is through the roof now. So no, we're looking forward to it, and no, definitely Division One is where you want to be, week in, week out. So just no, we're hoping to find out some sort of fixtures maybe in the next few weeks, or hear some sort of light shed on it, and then have that to aim towards, So
Absolutely, yeah, and and hopefully, definitely in the next couple of weeks, they can definitely, I suppose, provide a bit of clarity on different games and when the return, I suppose, will be like. And like, what do you see as a realistic goal for Antrim, I suppose, in 2021? Like, I suppose going into Leinster, do you think staying in the Leinster Championship is the sole aim, or do you think maybe there's the potential there to even kick on or go on a run through the qualifiers if they happen?
I think for us, probably this year, realistically, I'd say it's probably, keeping your position there. First of all, league, whatever you have to do to keep yourself in the division, and then, once you get yourself accustomed to playing at that intensity, that level, competing against these teams that are, obviously physically a bit further down the line. Once you can do that, then push on if you can. So no, definitely Division One hurling, getting ourselves up to that speed, hopefully, and then staying there. And it's the same the Liam McCarthy. I know you're going to be playing against the same teams, but um, the Division One teams and senior Liam McCarthy teams, they're able to raise their game. Like you can just see the sort of they play at a level in the league, but they have another step or another few steps that they raise their game for the championship as well. And that's going to be important for us, is not just to try and stay in the Division One and the league. It's going to be try and consolidate place in the Leinster Championship as well. So.
Mm. And I suppose, like, when you look at the population of Antrim and a massive city like Belfast, for example, and obviously there was a lot of political tensions there for many a time. Like, but what do you kind of see as maybe one of the big reasons for the fact that Antrim maybe haven't quite been able to, I suppose, kick on from getting to an All Ireland final in '89, and I suppose even when you were saying there in 2010, 2011, like what do you kind of, in your opinion anyway, kind of boil that down to?
They're obviously, yeah, you're right. There's been things historically, and Antrim, that's probably held us back slightly, in terms, and that goes across the whole province, I suppose, of Ulster maybe, um, certain aspects of that, but um, it's hard to know. I don't know if I could put my finger on one specific thing that's caused it, that sort of way, but it's probably the main thing for us, I'd say, is just the geographical sort of divide, or look, how far we're away from the teams that are playing at the top level, week in, week out. You look at, I suppose, the likes of, even just look at third level education and the Fitzgibbon Cup, and these players that are progressing through that competition are are the players that are making up these county squads and the top club teams in the south at the minute. I was lucky enough to play in the Fitzgibbon for Jordanstown at that stage whenever I was there, and I know a few of, I think we were maybe, there's another group of players, another group from Jordanstown played in the Fitzgibbon maybe around that time as well, maybe 2010, 2011. And it's not a coincidence that's probably stuff like that is maybe a big part to play on players progressing and coming through the ranks, and making up these teams that are, at the top of their game. Like, look at the Limerick teams and Cork teams that are hurling well. Like, they're littered with these players. But no, definitely, I think, consistently playing that level of hurling, whether it's your club level, college or county level, I think, that's one of the biggest reasons. And it's probably something that we always, like, if we're going to travel down south, we have to, probably one of the closest teams we can play, in terms of Division 1 is Dublin or Laois. That's a hell of a distance away, really, whenever you look at it. But no, there's huge positives going on in Antrim at the minute. You only have to look at, there's the initiatives, the likes of the Galefast that's running to improve participation in Belfast specifically. And there's huge work going on in Antrim, and the likes of, a lot of the committees are back, really, really driving hard and working hard and supporting the county teams, not just the hurlers, the senior footballers and camogie and ladies football. And there seems to be, like, the teams are all progressing and doing pretty well at the minute. I suppose keeping that going is going to be the next big step. So. But no, I think Antrim and Ulster generally is very, very in a good position at the minute, and they're sort of probably in a positive place. So
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I suppose you were kind of touching on it there a bit as well, like with clubs like East Belfast being set up, of course, as well. Like, do you think that will help in promotion of the sport and, I suppose, the increase in participation levels as well?
yeah, no, like, seeing East Belfast and clubs like that, forming, only the past year or a couple of years is really, really good to see. And there's different teams in Belfast. I've seen there's a Wolf Tones club in Belfast. I've started back again, and there's plenty of other clubs are working really, really hard off the, that you mightn't see, or maybe outside your bracket or your bigger clubs that you maybe don't notice. But no, I think the likes of East Belfast starting GA in that area of Belfast is really, really good to see, really important. And I think, if Belfast is going to keep progressing, and they need clubs like that, and they need members and volunteers and players coming out of them places, but that's definitely, they're doing really well there. So.
Mm. And I suppose looking at Casement Park as well, like, I mean, how important do you think that is as well for Antrim as well to get that built? Like, obviously it's been in the works for a while, and I'm sure the COVID situation has probably slowed it down quite a bit, but how important do you think that is as well? Because obviously it would be a massive pull as well for Antrim for not just hurlers but for footballers as well.
Yeah, I'd say COVID definitely hasn't helped the situation with it starting, but it's no, it's I think everyone knows the situation with it and knows how important it is. It's going to be, I suppose whenever you're driving down the Falls Road, if you can look over and see a brand new stadium like that, state of the art, players, young ones are going to be able to, gives them something to aim towards and work towards. And it's going to be, it's a selling point in itself, having that as your key sort of place and for the GAA in Belfast and for Ulster as well. But no, I think, there's a lot of stuff around that and a lot of stuff around GAA that, Casement's probably one of the key and central parts to that. And, you can only imagine, like, Ulster finals coming back there, every year, and the number of GAA people and young ones and players coming into the city. And, that'll only be positive for Antrim and for Ulster, having your second biggest city in the island, driving with the GAA. And, like, there's huge pockets of Belfast and and parts of the country up here that just don't play or aren't involved in GAA at all. That's one thing. You look at the population, but there are huge pockets that just wouldn't consider it. Be that politically, or be that just don't have maybe the resources aren't there to try and push it in there. And it's starting to turn, and things like Casement Park will be flagship for stuff like that happening. So no, hopefully the green lights give on it. The full green light has been sort of talked about slightly about this. It's starting, but nothing's really started yet. So we're still sort of waiting on the full go ahead, hopefully.
Yeah, and I suppose obviously you could imagine if Antrim were playing Galway or something like that, and the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship in a game at Casement Park, that would be, I suppose, huge for a county like Antrim and for the promotion of the sport, and I suppose for the city of Belfast as well. And do you think as well, with Casement Park, if that gets built and everything else we were discussing as well, that maybe Antrim can push on and build a sustained period of success somewhat and kind of kick on from there a bit more?
I think there's definitely potential there. The Antrim supporters and people are so big into their sport in GAA. I think if the teams can keep going in the direction they're going, I think it's only a matter of time before the likes of the supporters really get behind the teams, and the GAA will just blow up in Belfast, and it will really, really drive and succeed. So I think the likes of Casement, where they're hoping is just a catalyst for that to sort of happen. So we'll see how it plays out. But you're definitely right. The likes of Galway coming up, or I think originally we were down to play Clare in our first Division 1 league game this year, and whether there's supporters there or not. But if imagine in a normal situation, there'd be thousands of people at that, there to see the likes of your Tony Kelly, likes of, and see the likes of the Antrim team that got promoted, won the Joe McDonagh, and haven't seen them yet. They'd be trying driving from all over the country, all across Ulster to really see it. So no, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely, yeah. If that gets built, I could definitely see Antrim kicking on without doubt. And I suppose we'll just, before we wrap up, just look at one or two questions here just from Instagram. Who would have been the best player you played against in your time playing for Antrim?
The best player, we've come up against a few really good players. In fairness, Walsh Cup, I think we played against TJ Reid and Richie Hogan. And I played them in Abbottstown one day, and they were very, very strong. There are a couple of players like that, and but we've played probably over the years. We played, not sure, maybe the likes of. I get asked that question a few times, and one of the players I always found the hardest was Keith Rossiter from Wexford. We were marking him. Very, very strong player at that stage, whenever I was sort of breaking onto the team.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose looking at TJ Reid and how good he is, he doesn't look human half the time. When you see some of the points and goals he can score on the pitch. And who would have been the best player you played with?
The best player, one of the best players probably on our own squad would have been the likes of Paul Shields, one of the main players for Dundee now at the minute. He played at Antrim for many years, and he was real gifted player, and he's still doing it for his club at the minute, and he's flying. So
absolutely, yeah, without doubt, top class player. Well, look, listen, Conor, anyway, I appreciate you coming on, and appreciate your time, and look, listen, best of luck for Antrim in 2021, whenever the league and championship does come back.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Aaron, for having me, and I'll get talking to you soon.
Thank you very much for watching. I'd like to thank Conor McCann for coming on the podcast today to discuss all things Antrim hurling ahead of the upcoming 2021 All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship, and of course looking back at Antrim, of course, in 2020 as well, of course, winning that Joe McDonagh Cup. So yeah, look, listen, very much appreciate Conor McCann coming on. I do hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more videos and more podcasts coming soon. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll speak to you later.